So y'all, welcome to Beer, Schmerchick Beer, Tarot, and Farting, Drooling, Sneezing, Wheezing, Coughing, Twitching, and Drooling, and all the other unpleasantness that comes with my channel. Today, I wanted to do continuation of my Rome history, and so I'm going to do continuation. Hey, Gloria! Wow, you actually saw me really quickly. How are you? Here's my little Amber. I'm okay. I'm a bit tipsy. But otherwise I'm good. Right, Amber? How are you? You okay? How's life? So I wanna talk about Romulus. I want to talk about Romulus and Remus. They were the founders of Rome. Actually, Romulus was the founder of Rome, and well, that's good. I'm glad to know that you're okay. How's your family? Ouch. Come on, baby. Do you have to? You have to call me? Do you have to? As soon as I start talking, suddenly they like wake up, Like, I don't know what it is. I have no idea what it is, but why suddenly when I start talking, suddenly they decide they need to get involved, you know? Like all this time they were sleeping. Oh, that's good. I'm glad they're okay. Like all this time my cat was sleeping. They were all just like in their own world, and then suddenly I start talking and they just decide they need to be involved. So I'm glad your family is doing okay. Okay, so L'chaim firstly. This is my wine, 13%. L'chaim, to your health, your wealth, your happiness, and your success. L'chaim. Anyway, so I broke up with him, and then he admitted that he wasn't saying the truth, so I got back together with him. It was kind of like he didn't want to admit it, because it was kind of like I forced him, to admit what I believe is to be the truth, so that he can get back with me. Yeah, so that's the story about that. I'm okay, I guess. I'm managing. I got the second vaccine, and it hasn't knocked me sick, silly. I think the first vaccine was just really brutal on me. Hopefully this second vaccine won't just hit me in a week from now. You know what I mean? I don't know. See what happens. Like relationships are very complicated, like the more I think about it, Gloria, the more I realize that relationships are just really difficult, and you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, we're gonna start with Romanus. I prefer to I started doing like history because first of all I wanted to be educated for myself, and secondly because sometimes I don't have the energy to do tarot, like read the cards, because it takes a lot of emotional energy and focus to be able to read for somebody, excuse me. So I feel like maybe it's just fun for me to do the history. Anyway, so we're going to start with Romulus. So in my last video, we discussed Romulus and how he became the first emperor of Rome, and how his name became the reason why Rome became named Rome, because his name was Romulus, so it was named after him. Okay, so Romulus and Remus are the mythological twin brothers who founded the city of Rome. Here's their story. Romulus and Remus were twin boys born to princess named Rhea Silvia. Their father was a fair Roman god of war, Mars. The king where the boys lived were scared that someday Romulus and Remus would overthrow him and take his throne. So, what I don't understand about these kings that call themselves God is that if you're a god, you're omnipresent, omnipotent, whatever you call it. Like you're invincible. You're not able to be taken over. Nobody's gonna kill you. But they called themselves a god, and then they were afraid that their twin sons would overthrow them, which is silly to me. So the Roman god of war, Mars, the king where the boys lived, was scared that someday Romulus and Remus would overthrow him and take his throne. So he had the boys left in a basket on the river, on the Tiber River. He figured they would soon die. So he's willing to kill his sons so that in the future, maybe they won't, kill him and take over his throne. What a way to live, right? Afraid of your own kids. Raised by a wolf. So the boys were raised by a female wolf. They were found by a female wolf. The wolf cared for them and protected them from other wild animals. A friendly woodpecker helped to find them food. So it looks like the joint effort of the woodpecker and the wolf is what kept them alive. Eventually, some shepherds happened across the twins. So some shepherds discovered the twins, and one shepherd took the boys home and raised them as his own children. So here's a picture of the shepherd that found the boys, the twin boys. See? Anyway, so the boys are found by shepherd Romulus and Remus by Nicholas Mignard. Growing up. As the boys grew older, they became natural-born leaders. One day, Remus was captured and taken to the king. He discovered his true identity, and Romulus gathered some shepherds to rescue his brother. They ended up killing the king. When the city learned who the boys were, they offered to crown them as joint kings, but the boys, they could be rulers of their own homeland. But, however, they turned down the crowns because they wanted to found their own city. So they had an ego. They didn't want to just accept their father's crown. The twins left and set out to find the perfect spot for their city to rule. So, founding a new city, the twins eventually came to a place where Rome is located today. They both liked the general area, but each wanted to place the city on a different hill. Romulus wanted the city to be on top of Palatine Hill, while Remus preferred Aventine Hill. They agreed to wait for a sign from the gods, called an augury, to determine which hill to use. Remus saw the signs of 6 vultures first, but Romulus saw 12. Each claimed to have one. So it seems like the gods are showing both the twins different numbers. Romulus went ahead and started building a wall around Palatine Hill. However, Remus, who was his twin brother, was jealous and began to make fun of Romulus's wall. At one point, Remus jumped over the wall to show how easy it was to get across. Romulus became angry and killed Remus. So, how was Rome founded? With Remus dead, Romulus continued to work on his city. So, basically, Romulus killed his brother Remus, his twin brother. And he continued to work on his city. And honestly, I don't understand how someone can hate their brother so much. and be afraid of their brother that they would kill them. But I guess maybe they didn't have such a strong connection, because then why would they kill their brother, their twin, So Romulus continued to work on his city. He officially founded the city on April 21st, 753 BC, making himself king and naming it Rome after himself. From there, he began to organize the city. He divided his army into legions of 3,300 men. He called his 100 most noble men and patricians and the elders of Rome, the Senate. The city grew and prospered for over 1,000 years. Rome would be one of the most powerful cities in the world. So that's the beginning of Rome. So basically, where do these boys descend from? Hi, Jano. Welcome. So where do these boys descend from? The boys were descendants of the Trojan prince and great warrior Aeneas, made famous from Virgil's epic poem, the Aeneid. So there's a few versions of the story. Hey, Deborah. Welcome. How are you, Deborah? It's been a while. So, in another version of the story, the father of the boys is the hero, Hercules. But over time, the city of Rome expanded to cover the 7 surrounding hills of the Aventine Hill, Celian Hill, Capitoline Hill, Aquiline Hill. I'm okay. Just been on a drinking binge. I'm alright. Thank you. Romulus died when he mysteriously disappeared in a whirlwind. The poet Ovid once wrote that Romulus was turned into a god named Quirinus and went to live on Mount Olympus with his father Mars. So apparently, it looks like a lot of this stuff, like apparently Romulus and his brother Remus, his twin, their father believed he was a god, right? But then he was so afraid that his children that were babies at the time would kill him and take over his throne that he sent his children into the river. But the problem is that if you're a god, you're not supposed to be invincible. Oh, my boyfriend. Thank you, sweetie. Okay, so who is after Romulus? Let's find out. Which king after Romulus? Reigned from 753 to 715 BC. After Romulus died, the next 4 kings were elected by the Romans. Okay, so let's see. Ancient Rome's monarchy. All right, so let's see who is next in the monarchy of Rome. Who was after Romulus? I asked already, which king after Romulus? They won't give me a specific answer. Numa Pompilius. Okay, so after this king, Romulus reigned over the country, there was a second king, and his name was Numa Pompilius. So he was the second of the 7 kings who, according to Roman tradition, ruled Rome before the founding of the Republic. So before there was a republic, like a democracy kind of thing, there was a patriarchy, it was a monarchy. So here we go. Numa is said to have reigned from 715 to 673. Create account. Why is it making me create account? He is credited with the formulation of the religious calendar and with the founding of Rome's other early religious institutions, including the Vestal Virgins. So I don't know if you guys know what the Vestal Virgins is. It's like basically the nobles, they appointed some girls from the age of like 5 years old that they would be um, chaste. They wouldn't have sex with anybody. And they were meant to be like that. And they were considered like special virgins that would sit and, I don't know what they would do deities. Um, they were considered special. And any of them that would break that, um, anyone of them that would have sex or anything would be found out to have sex with anyone, they would be killed in a very brutal way. So, the cult of Mars, Jupiter, and Romulus deified Quirinus and the office of Pontifex Maximus. These developments were actually, however, the result of centuries of religious accretion. According to legend, Numa is the peaceful counterpart of the more bellicose Romulus, the legendary founder of Rome, whom he succeeded after an interregnum of the year. His supposed relationship with Pythagoras was known even in the Roman Republic to be chronologically impossible, and the 14 books related to philosophy and religious pontifical law that were uncovered in 181 BCE and attributed to him were clearly forgeries. Okay, so it's not really being clear with me here what's going on with this guy. What's his name? Numa Pompilus. Let's find out the true story of Numa Pompilus, okay? Let's find out who really was the second king and what his story is. Okay, so let's see if this can be done. By the way, if any of you want to get through my video really quickly, just put it on faster speed and then you don't need to sit through it, you know? Okay. Biography of Numa Pompilius and Roman king. Okay, let's see. Okay, so this looks like, okay, we're going to talk about the Numa, the second, Numa Pompilius, Roman king. We're going to talk about the second king of Rome. Want to say hi to everybody, Amber? Want to say hi to everybody? Want to say hi? They're acting up. My cat's acting up. You're acting up. Baby, you're acting up. Usually you're so quiet. Now you're acting up. Now you're making noise and you're scratching me and you're biting me. The cat, he's acting up. Can you let go of me, please? Can you let go, please? Please let go. Weirdos, he needs help. He needs help letting go. Ouch! Can you please not, like, hurt me? Okay. So, Numa Pompilius, from 753 to 673 BCE. So he lived quite a while. Wow. He lived like 100 years. He was the second king of Rome. He is credited with establishing a number of notable institutions, including the Temple of Janus. Numa's predecessors was Romulus and the legendary founder of Rome. Okay, we know that already. So, according to ancient scholars, Numa Pompilius was born on the very day that Rome was founded, April 21st, 753 BCE. Little else is known about his early life. Some 37 years after the founding of Rome, Romulus, the kingdom's first ruler, disappeared in a thunderstorm. The patricians, the Roman nobility, were suspected of having murdered him until Julius Proculus informed the people that he had had a vision of Romulus, who said that he had been taken up to join the gods and was to be worshipped under the name Quirinus. So we're going to be talking about Numa Pompilius' rise to power. Excuse me. Wine break. There was a considerable unrest between the original Romans and the Sabines, who had joined them after the city was founded, over who would be the next king. Who is the Sabines? Who are the Sabines? Let's find out. Sabines. So there's a fight. The Sabines were an Italic people that lived in the central Apennine Mountains of the ancient Italian peninsula. So they were basically like Italians. Fine. I accept that. So, over who would be the next king? For the time being, it was arranged that the senators should each rule with the king's powers for a period of 12 hours until some more permanent solution could be found. Eventually, they decided that the Romans and Sabines should each elect the Sabines and the Italians should each select a king from the other group. The Romans would elect the Sabine, and the Sabines would elect the Roman. The Romans were to choose first, and their choice was the Sabine Numa Pompilius. So it was the Italian man named Numa Pompilius. The Sabines agreed to accept Numa as the king without bothering to elect anyone else. So because the Romans had elected an Italian king, the Sabines were okay with that. So a deputation from both Romans and Sabines went off to tell Numa of his election. So who is Numa? Okay, so Numa was from the Sabines. So basically the people, they elected a man named Numa, and he was from the Italians. And so he was accepted both by the Italians and the Romans. Numa did not even live in Rome. He resided in a nearby town called Kurd. So imagine all these people, they just decide one day to elect some guy to power that nobody knows. His name is Numa. He lives in some village somewhere, and they decide he's king. So Numa resided in a town called the Kurds. He was the son-in-law of Tatius, a Sabine Italian guy, who had ruled Rome as joint kings with Romulus for a period of 5 years. So he had some sort of connection with Romulus. After Numa's wife died, so Numa's an Italian guy that was just elected, his wife died. He had become something of a recluse. He wanted to be out of everyone's way, and he was believed to have been taken by a nymph of nature spirit as a lover. So who's a nymph? Who's a nymph? Why would he take a nymph as a lover? What's a nymph? Nymph. What's a nymph? A nymph is in Greek mythology, is a class of inferior female divinities. The nymphs were usually associated with fertile, growing things such as trees or with water there. So basically, he is rumored to have taken up a nymph lover, which is like a ghost of some sort that grows trees and lives a long time, and they're not a very noble character. They're more of lower class character, but they're not really physical. So how could they be inferior unless they're close to the demon? Unless they're close to the demon family, which I don't think they are. You understand? Because they're fertile growing beings, which is associated with positive energy. Anyway, so when the delegation from Rome came, Numa refused the position of king at first, but was later talked into accepting it by his father and Marcius, a relative, and some of the local people from Kurz. So this guy Numa, he was sitting in like some sort of village, right? And they come to him and they tell him he's king, and he's like, I'm not interested. I have my lovers, who are these like they're mythological mysterious ghosts that grow in trees and stuff, and he wants to be alone, and then they tell him that he's king and he's not interested. So his father has to convince him, and his relatives need to convince him to be king. And and some local people from Kurz, they argued that left to themselves, the Romans would continue to be just as warlike as they had been under Romulus. So they told this guy, Numa, they told Numa, if you're not going to be king, we're going to become savages, just like the people who were under Romulus, the first king. And it would be better if the Romans had more of a peace-loving king who could moderate their bellicosity, or if that proved to be impossible, at least direct it away from Kurs and the other Sabine communities. So they're trying to make peace. They don't want the Italians to be fighting with the Romans and the Romans to be fighting with the Italians, okay? So, fine, he accepts the kingship, right? Obviously, he accepts the kingship and he becomes a king. Numa becomes the king of Rome, the second king. So, okay. Having agreed to accept the position, Numa left for Rome, where his election as king was confirmed by the people. So he was actually elected? It's pretty shocking. Before he finally accepted, however, he insisted on watching the sky for a sign in the flight of birds that his kingship would be acceptable by the gods. Numa's first act as a king was to dismiss the guards that Romulus had always kept around, to achieve his aim of making the Romans less bellicose. What does bellicose mean? We're going to find out. What's bellicose? Bellicose. Aggression. He didn't want to show aggression. He didn't want them to think he was aggressive king. So he diverted the people's attention by leading religious spectacles, processions, and sacrifices, and by terrifying them with accounts of strange sights and sounds, which were supposed to be supposedly signs from the gods. Okay, Numa instituted priests called Flamines of Mars, of Jupiter, and of Romulus under his heavenly name of Quirinus. He also added other orders of the priests, the pontifices, the Salii, the Fetiales, and the Vestals. Hi, Jenya Arrow, welcome. The pontifices were responsible for public sacrifices and funerals. So it looks like he ordered priests to create sacrifices and funerals, to be in charge of sacrificing to the gods and creating the funerals. The Salii were responsible for the safety of a shield which had allegedly fallen from the sky and was paraded around the city each year, accompanied by the Salii dancing in armor. So it looks like they were very superstitious, and they loved to think about things that fall from the sky as to having some sort of meaning. The Fetiales were peacemakers until they agreed that it was just war. No war could be declared. Originally, Numa instituted 2 Vestals, but he later increased the number to 4. What's a Vestal? Let's find out. Vestal. They have all these fancy words, which I don't know what they're talking about. Vestal virgins, 6 priestesses. So it's basically holy people who are considered priestesses, which were female, that were virgins. Okay? So they were supposed to be they were to be the ones that would keep the sacred flame and to prepare the mixture of grain and salt used for the sacrifice. So they were like virgin priestesses, which would be used for Roman sacrifices to the gods. Numa distributed the land conquered by Romulus to poor citizens. So he took the land that was conquered, and he was hoping that an agricultural way of life would make the Romans more peaceful. So Numa seems more like a peace-loving kind of king. He wanted peace. He would inspect the farms himself, promoting those whose farms looked well cared for and admonishing those whose farms showed signs of laziness. People still thought of themselves first as original Romans or Sabines, which are the Italians, rather than citizens of Rome. To overcome this division, Numa organized the people into guilds based on the occupation of their members. So he didn't want there to be that division of like people who think they're Romans and people who think they're just Italians people. And he wanted everyone to think they're just Roman. Hi, Emily Parrish. Welcome. In Romulus's time, which was the first king, the calendar had been fixed in 360 days to the year, but the number of days in a month greatly varied. So it looks like it wasn't really 100%. There wasn't no conclusion as to the number of days for the month. Numa estimated the solar year of 365 days and the lunar year at 354 days. He doubled the difference of 11 days and instituted a leap month of 22 days to come between February and March, which was originally the first month of the year. Numa made January the first month, and he may have added the months of January and February to the calendar as well. So it seems like the calendar was actually created by this second ruler named Numa. What's his name? Numa. So he's the one that actually created a normal calendar for everyone worldwide. That's why we have the calendar that we have today. The month of January is, as we know, it's the first month of the year. That's why we are in January now, 2022. The month of January is associated with the god Janus. Oh. So the reason why January is named after January, the first month, the English month, is because of the god Janus, the doors of whose temples were left open in times of war and closed in time of peace. Wow. So this is so this god named Janus was actually a god of war, because whenever there was war, her doors were open, and whenever there was peace, her doors were closed. So she was the bad god. In Numa's reign of 43 years, the doors remained closed because Numa was so peaceful. So Janus's doors were closed because she didn't like peace. And that's, I guess, where the name of Janus comes from, which is, like in Friends, the Friends episode, which is her name is Janice, in Friends. Is one of the Friends' girlfriends. Her name is Janice. Okay, so death. So what happened when Numa died? So what happened? Let's see what happened when Numa died. What happened when Numa died? Where's my lighter? What happened when Numa died? So what happened when Numa died? When Numa died at over the age of 80, so that's quite old for those times, he left a daughter, Pompilia, who was married to Marsyas, the son of the Marsyas, who had persuaded Numa to accept the throne. So his daughter was married to some guy that tried to make him accept the throne. Their son, Ancus Marsyas, so his daughter had a son named Ancus Marcius. He was 5 years old when Numa died, and he later became the 4th king of Rome. So basically, Numa was the 2nd king. Numa was buried under the Janiculum. What's a Janiculum? Let's find out. What's a Janiculum? They have all these like fancy words, and I don't know what it means. Janiculum. Janiculum Hill, considered by many as the 8th hill of Rome, is a peaceful and refreshing attraction. So it's a mountain, basically. Okay, fine. Couldn't you just say that? Fine. So he was buried under the mountain, together with his religious books in 181 BCE. His grave was uncovered in a flood, but his coffin was found to be empty. Only the books, which had been buried in a second coffin, remained. They were burned on the recommendation of Praetor. Who's Praetor? Let's find out. Praetor. Praetor. Let's see who convinced them to burn it. So it's a magistrate. It's one of the people in the government. Okay, fine. Legacy. Much of the story of Numa's life is pure legend. Still, so a lot of Numa's life is considered to be like a legend, which is like some stories which can't be, I guess, proven. Still seems like there was a monarchical. Hi, Jenya Arrow. I'm from New York, but I live in Israel. So, with the kings coming from different groups, Roman Sabines and Etruscans, it is a rather less likely that there were 7 kings who reigned in the monarchical period of approximately 250 years. One of the kings may have been a Sabine, who's an Italian, called Numa Pompilius, though we may doubt that he instituted so many features of the Roman religion and calendar, or that his reign was a golden age free from strife and warfare, but that the Romans believed that it was so is as a historical fact. The story of Numa was part of the founding myth of Rome. So basically, Numa is a myth. Basically, like his story is a myth. It's not 100% proven, but it seems like he was basically a peaceful guy, that wanted just peace. And he's the one that created the English calendar that we have today, which is January, February, March. We're in January now. So, should we look at the third king of Rome? Should we find out? The third king of Rome was Numa's son. Should we find out what happened with him? Third king of Rome. Fine. Tuulius Hostilius. Fine. King of Rome. Let's see what they have to say about him. Okay, so he's a double number of Roman citizens, organized army, and disappeared from Earth. I don't like this story because it's not clear. I want like a story which is like laid out nice and clear, Tullus Hostilus, the third king of Rome. Here he is. Wow, he's handsome. Or he's not handsome, but he's kind of like a very beautifully drawn portrait, in my opinion. Jenya, I live in Jerusalem, like in the center, and I just live here. I'm Jewish, and I live here. I became a citizen here, and I'm also a citizen of America. Okay, anyway, so Tullus Hostilius was the third of 7 kings of Rome, following Romulus and Numa, who we just talked about, Pompilius. He ruled Rome from about 673 to 642 BC. Tullus, like the other king of Rome, lived during the legendary period whose records were destroyed in the 4th century BC. Most of the stories we have about Tullus Hostilius come from Livius Patavinus Livy, a Roman historian who lived in the 1st century BCE. Okay, so here is the story about this guy. Okay, let me open the door for my other cat because he wants to come inside. Okay. My cats think they have a right to my house, you know? They think my cats think that they have a right to my house. Like they live here. Like they think that I have to open the door when they cry outside, you know? Oh, hi Amber. Oh, nice, Jenya. Where do you live now? Excuse me. So you're Israeli, basically. Okay, so during the reign of Romulus, so Romulus was the first king of Rome. The Sabines, who were the Italians, and Romans were approaching each other in battle when a single Roman rushed ahead and engaged with the Italian Sabine warrior who had similar ideas. So they were going at war, and then two people, Romans and Italian, they met each other and they exchanged ideas. And the brash Romans was Hostus Hostilius, grandfather of Tuulius Hostilius. Though he did not defeat the Sabine, the Italian, Hostus Hostilius was held up as a model of bravery. So basically, this Roman guy named Hostilius did not defeat. He did not win the battle with the Italian guy. Hostus Hostilius was held up as a model of bravery. The Romans retreated, although Romulus soon changed his mind and turned around and engaged with the Italians again. Tuulius on expanding Rome. Okay, Tuulius, who was Tuulius? Tuulius. Who was Tuulius? I keep getting confused. Tuulius. Tuulius, could you not scratch me, please? Ow. Tuulius. Who was he? He was the third king. Okay, so we're talking about the third king now, okay? Incubus give up burner near Rehoboth. Nice. That's nice to know. Okay, welcome. Where do you live now? Though he did not defeat the Sabine, Hostus Hostilius was held up as a model. And okay, so Tullus, who was the third king, defeated the Albans, razed the city of the Alba Longa, and brutally punished their traitorous leader, Medius Fulfetius. He welcomed the Albans into Rome. Who is the Albans? Albans. They like say all these names, like they throw all these names out to you, like as if you're supposed to know who they are. I don't know who the Albans are. Like WTF, right? Okay, so Albans is a city of North London, England. So it was about they were having a war with English people. All right, fine. You could have just said it. You didn't have to make me go and start doing research. Okay. He welcomed the Albans into Rome. He welcomed the English people into Rome, thereby doubling the population of Rome. So with the people of England coming into Rome, now there was a stronger Roman people presence. Tullus added Alban nobles to the Senate of Rome. So he added English people to the Senate of Rome and built the Curia Hostilia for them. According to Livy, he also used the Alban nobles to increase his cavalry force. So he used basically the British people to increase his army, like with the horses and all that stuff. Military campaigns. Okay, so Tullus, who's the third, I have to remember, he's the third king of Rome, who is described as more militaristic. So he's a more strict military type of guy than Romulus, who was the first king of Rome. Went to war against Alba, who is the British, Fidene, and the Vientines. He tried treating the Albans as allies. So he tried to treat the British as his friends, but when their leader acted treacherously, he conquered and absorbed them. After beating the people of Fidene, he defeated their allies, the Vientines, in a bloody battle at the Anio River. He also defeated the Sabines at Silva Malitosa, but throwing them into confusion using his Albans enhanced cavalry. So he was able to defeat all these other people, other countries, or whatever, with his cavalry from the British. Jupiter strikes down Tuulius. Tuulius had not paid much attention to the religious rites. When a plague struck, the people of Rome believed it to be divine punishment. Tullus didn't worry about it until he too became ill and unsuccessfully tried to follow the prescribed rites. So they were very, like, the people in the old days were very, how do you say, superstitious, and they believed that any kind of sickness that was coming to them was because of a god that was angry at them. So they thought if they do certain rituals, then they would be cured. Hi, Carl Herbst. Welcome. What up? It was believed that Jupiter, in response to his lack of proper reverence, struck Tullus down with a bolt of lightning. So they believe that the god of Jupiter struck down Tullus, who's the third king of Rome, that he was struck down because he didn't do the rites properly. He was struck down and he was killed by the god Jupiter. Tullus had reigned for 32 years. Do I believe all this? No. Virgil on Tullus. Who's Virgil? So that's the story. That's how Tullus died, basically. It's rumored that Tullus died because of the god Jupiter struck him down with a bolt of lightning and he was dead. He was killed. Damn. Gosh. Sheesh. Man. Okay, let's talk about the fourth king of Rome. Who's ready? Who's ready? Who's ready? You guys ready? Okay, let's go. List of Roman emperors. Ancus Marcus, king of Rome. Phew. Fine. Claudius. I think he was the third. Was he the fourth? Claudius. Caesar was the fourth Roman emperor. Okay. Okay, here we go. This is good. So, it looks like... Okay, great, Carl. I'm glad you're ready. So, who is the fourth king of Rome? Okay. So, we know that the third king of Rome was the son of the second king of Rome. But the second king of Rome was not the son of the first king of Rome. He was appointed by the people. Remus was appointed by the people. Now we're on to the fourth king of Rome. Okay. Claudius. His name was the fourth king of Rome's name was Claudius. His full name was Tiberius Claudius Caesar Augustus Germanicus. He was the fourth Roman emperor from 41 to 54 AD, best known for the successful expansion of Rome into Britain and parts of Africa and the Middle East. Claudius was an accomplished leader who brought forth improvements to the empire's judicial system, which means he into the courthouses. He brought improvements into the courthouses. He passed laws protecting enslaved workers, people who were slaves, and he extended the Roman citizenship and gave citizens of Rome more rights. Because as we know, all these other countries, like in every country, there's like the nobles and there's like the higher class and the lower classes. So it seems like he was a more compassionate guy that gave the lower classes more rights. Many at the time considered him to be too weak to rule compared to the kings before him. But much was still unknown by the public about the upstart ruler and the only surviving heir of Emperor Augustus. Okay, so it seems like this guy named Claudius was ridiculed by his own family because he actually had a disability. Claudius struggled with various physical disabilities and ailments and illnesses, including tremors of the head and hands, a limp, a runny nose, and foaming at the mouth, which, if you think about it, is kind of gross because people don't like that, you know? Historians have since speculated that he may have suffered from cerebral palsy or Tourette's syndrome, which makes sense. But his family considered his condition a sign of weakness and a source of great public embarrassment. His own mother, supposedly called him of a monstrosity of a human being. Can you imagine his own mother talking about her own son like that? One that nature began and never finished. So his mother actually thought that he was a monstrosity, and he was upset that nature didn't finish him off. That's how she thought of her own son. Can you imagine? I don't know much Hebrew, Jenya. I'm like pretty. How do you say? Like I'm bad at languages and any of that stuff. I'm really not good at languages, and I feel like I have a learning disability. Like I'm not really that educated, or it's very hard for me to learn. So I don't feel like I have a. I don't know Hebrew. I know a few words here and there, but I don't know much Hebrew. And so his mother considered him a monstrosity that nature needs to finish, which is kind of disgusting if you think of him as someone who lacked a lot of love. His mother hated him. His own sister, said to have prayed that Rome would never have to endure him becoming its emperor. So his sister was afraid that he would become emperor, and he actually did become emperor. So his sister prayed that he would never be emperor. Can you imagine what kind of family he had? Like, really mean. Like, he must be a very strong guy to have endured his family's abuse. He later faced constant humiliation at the hands of his nephew, the Roman Emperor Caligula. According to the ancient historian Suetonius, Caligula delighted in mocking his uncle for his infirmities. So Caligula, who was his nephew, would make fun of him all the time. And if Claudius dozed off during dinner gatherings, guests were encouraged to pelt him with the stones of olives and dates. Can you imagine? He's sitting at he's the emperor, he's sitting at his table, and he's the king, and he falls asleep because he has disabilities, and everyone starts throwing dates at him and olives. Can you imagine how humiliating that is and nasty? Okay, so here's another fact that we know about. What's his name? Claudius. He entered politics later in life. So Claudius's handicap saw him repeatedly passed over for a chance at important public office. So nobody wanted him because he had these disabilities, right? And he was kept out of sight for most of his youth, and his royal relatives went out of their way to place him far down the line of succession. So they didn't want him to have any they didn't want him to ever be king because of his disability. Claudius's uncle, the emperor Tiberius, repeatedly rebuffed his request to begin a political career. So it looks like Claudius wanted to actually have a career in politics, but his family, his own uncle, they all put him down. They didn't want him to have anything to do with politics. Instead of appointing him to low prestige priesthood, so they didn't even want. So they actually put him to be a priest, which was a low. It wasn't like high up in the, nobility, whatever. Claudius abandoned his political aspirations and filled his days with drinking. So he got very depressed, it seems like, because the only reason why someone would drink is because they can't handle their emotions. So he was gambling and he was womanizing, and so he was like flirting with all the ladies, and he was having sex with everybody and all that. And until AD 37, when his nephew Caligula assumed the imperial purple. Caligula was inexperienced and vulnerable. So he had a nephew named Caligula who was kind of like. I saw a documentary about Caligula, and I was not so impressed with him. I was impressed. I feel like Caligula was portrayed as something far worse than he actually was. Um, So his nephew Caligula assume the imperial purple. What's imperial purple? Let's find out. Come on, seriously? What's it? What's the imperial purple? We have to find out. Imperial purple. Tyrian purple, also known as the Phoenician red. Phoenician red. Phoenician purple, royal purple, or imperial dye is a reddish purple natural dye. The name Tyrian refers to Tyre, Lebanon. What does that have to do with anything, though? So basically, I feel like this purple was like a show of like importance. That's what I feel like, right? So let's see what happened next. Caligula was unexperienced and vulnerable, so he was not very strong. To help shore up his claim to the throne, he appointed Claudius, then almost 46 years old, as his co-consul. So Caligula wanted Claudius to be his consul. What's a consul? Consul. I'm learning as I go, you know? It's a service networking and solution to automate network configurations. To be his network, basically. Okay, so he wanted him to be his network to get to power, basically. He wanted his uncle, who was 46 years old at the time, to be his network to power. Okay, so Claudius was an accomplished historian. So Claudius was an accomplished something in his own right. When he wasn't distracting himself with drinking games of chance and having fun with the ladies, Claudius spent long hours immersed in books and academic study, despite having been labeled a dullard by his family. So his family thought he was stupid. He possessed a keen intellect that impressed the historian Livy, who encouraged him to take up writing. So he's impressing people and he's taking up writing. Claudius would later produce dozens of volumes on the history of Carthage, the Etruscans, the Roman Republic, and even the Roman alphabet. All of the future emperors' works have since been lost, but they appear to have been reasonably respected in their lifetime. In their time, the legendary Roman historian Tacitus even used Claudius's work as a source of his own writing. So he was very, very smart. Yeah, the color purple is extremely expensive to make and was thus considered to be only for those who were really important. So only members of the Senate, the two consuls, and the emperor were allowed. Yeah, that's right, Carl. So it looks like he was a writer in his own right. To wear purple, the emperor, of course, got to wear the most purple on his body. That's true, because it was the hardest color to make at the time. Is you have to be really rich to have that, right? Fine. So the guard installed him as emperor in AD 41. A cabal of Praetorian guards and the sworn protectors of the Roman emperor assassinated Caligula and brutally murdered his wife and child at the imperial palace. As the story goes, upon hearing the commotion, a frightened Claudius ran for his life and took refuge on a balcony. Wait a second, so he's the fourth emperor? I'm getting mixed up. The Praetorians eventually found him cowering behind a curtain, but rather than killing him, they saluted him as Rome's new emperor. Claudius' disabilities may have given the impression that he could be easily manipulated, but once in power, he showed himself to be cleverer than previously believed. Okay, so hold up. One second. Okay, now I'm a bit confused because I thought the third emperor was Remus' son. Now I'm on to the fourth emperor. I want to know the history, and I don't want to learn it on my own. Like, I don't want to just read it. So, like, I feel like if I talk about it, then I can kind of learn it with you. את חייבת ללמוד Zekmola Ladat Anglet. I hear ya, Jenya. Um, Hold on a second. Hold on a second. I'm a little confused. Wait a second. Okay, now I'm upset because I thought the third emperor was someone else. Third king of Rome. Tuulius Hostilius Romulus. Okay, so there's someone else. Why does it keep saying? Who is Caligula? Let's check out Caligula. He was a third Roman emperor. Okay, I guess there's a difference between the emperor and the king. Gaius Julius Caesar Germanicus. That was his name. 1 second. Hold on a second. I'm a bit upset because now I'm confused about who is the third emperor of Rome. Right? Okay, let's see. Third emperor of Rome. Third emperor of Rome. Who was it? Of Rome after Claudius? Caligula. So why does it say something else? Do you understand? Like why I'm confused? Okay, so we're gonna go to the history of Caligula, okay? Because and then we'll go to the fourth emperor, okay? Alright, the third of Rome's emperor, Caligula, formerly known as Gaius, achieved feats of waste and carnage during his 4-year reign. So he was only king for 4 years. Unmatched even to his infamous nephew Nero, the son of a great military leader, he escaped family intrigues to take the throne. But his personal and physical successes led him to be the first Roman emperor to be assassinated. Hold up. Hold on a second. I'm gonna ask. I need a clear list of who is in line. The Roman emperors. Because I'm upset now because I think I've been gypped. Because Caligula was one of my favorite emperors. So we have list of Roman emperors. We have Remus. We have Augustus, Tiberius, Caligula. Augustus? No, it was Romulus. It was Augustus. It's telling me it's Augustus. It's not Augustus. It's Romulus. WTF? Augustus was Romulus. Oh God. What? Okay, so let's go to list of Roman kings. Fine. Maybe emperors is different than kings. King of Romans. Fine. Let's see. Maybe it will be clear with me now. Augustus, Gaius, Julius Caesar, Octavian. Gaius, Julius Caesar. No, I'm upset now. I'm really upset. Really. I'm really, 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 really upset. Because it's telling me a different story than what I know. Vespasian? I don't want... Come on. Seriously? The Roman emperors are powerful and fearsome. I understand that. But Julian Claudian dynasty, Julius Caesar... They're not... Now it's taking me all over the place. Okay, now I'm getting pissed. Ow. My bones. Okay, fine. We'll go back to what we were at. Fine, we'll go back to things that we'll go back to the guy that was being ridiculed by his family, okay? So he had Tourette syndrome, he had cerebral palsy, his name was Claudius, and he had a runny nose. He entered later in life. He was an historian and later became emperor, and they thought they could manipulate him because of his disability. Turns out they were wrong. Claudius deftly avoided confrontation with the Roman Senate and purchased the loyalty of Praetorian Guard with a massive 15,000 sesterces per man donation. So what was Praetorian Guard? What's that? Praetorian Guard. Let's go copy, paste. Praetorian Guard. Praetorian Guard was a unit of the Imperial Roman army that served as a personal bodyguards and intelligence agents. So, okay, what did he do with the guards? He purchased the loyalty of the Roman guards that had all the intelligence that the Roman emperor needed for 15,000 sesterces per man donated. His ailments appeared to improve after he took the throne. So it looks like his sickness became better and better. Ancient Rome had kings at first, but almost all of them were tribal tyrants, so they abolished the kings. Then Augustus crowned himself emperor and started a long line of emperors. My question is, Caligula, when was he king? When was he emperor for 4 years? He was the third, right? But then it mixed me up because I was looking online and it's telling me all different stories. So he later claimed that he had only pretended to be dim-witted to protect himself. So it looks like he's claiming that he didn't have any ailments. He just did it because he thought no one would hurt him if he was showing himself to be weak. Some historians have even argued that he helped plan or was at least aware of the plot on Caligula's life. So Caligula was before him. So he's the fourth king of Rome. Okay, upon taking power, Claudius faced rabid opposition from Rome's senators, many of whom viewed him as a weak and illegitimate claimant to the throne. To help prove himself as a leader, he launched one of the most audacious military campaigns of the first century, the conquest of Britain. In AD 43, he dispatched a force of 40,000 troops and several war elephants across the English Channel. The Romans had soon conquered a stronghold at modern-day Colchester and eventually succeeding in capturing the Catuvellauni tribal leader Caratacus. Claudius visited Britain during the invasion and remained for 16 days before returning to a hero's welcome in Rome. He was later honored with the triumphant arch on the Via Flaminia that hailed him as the man who brought barbarian peoples beyond ocean for the first time under Roman's sway. So basically, he took over Britain. So I really wanted to discuss the life of Caligula because I found it fascinating when I first heard of it in a documentary. So I'm gonna go back now and I'm gonna talk about Caligula. Caligula life. Okay, so Caligula was, hold on. His name was Gaius Caesar, known as Caligula. He was the third king, succeeding Tiberius, and served as Roman emperor from 37 to 41 AD. Gaius Caesar, nicknamed Caligula or Little Boot, succeeded Tiberius as Roman emperor in 37 AD. Who is Tiberius? I thought I already did the second king. Was Tiberius? Come on, right? Okay, who was Tiberius? Let's look. Who was Tiberius? One second, I'm trying to get out of this. Fine. Uh, and adopted the name Gaius Caesar Germanicus, so he became all those fancy names. Records depict him as a cruel and unpredictable leader. He restored treason trials and put people to death. Cassius Caria murdered him in 41 AD at the Palatine Games. So he was killed at the games because he was a cheater. I saw. Yeah, so like it looks like Karl Herbst. It looks like they had all these different names for the emperors, and every time it keeps changing. Like now they're telling me the second emperor for me was the second king for me was his name was Remus, not Remus, Nimus, and now they're telling him he's Tiberius. Now they're telling me they're mixing me up. Don't mix up kings and emperors. I'm talking about Adrian saying that. Okay, so let's get this straight. Caligula was what? After Remus? Not Remus. Was it Nimus? So, Roman leader Gaius Caesar Germanicus was born in August 31. So, he was either Leo or Virgo. In the year 12 Antium, now Anzio, Italy. The third of 6 living children born to Germanicus and Agrippina. The elder Gaius hails from Rome, most distinguished family, the Julio Claudians. His great-great-grandfather was Julius Caesar. Hold on, hold up. So he's like down. Oh God. Okay. So he was okay. So there's a difference between the kings and the emperors. So I'm talking about the kings. Okay, so the first kings were different than Caligula was in the time of the emperor, so he wasn't a king. So he's like 500 years later, like you're saying. He's 500 years from the first king. One is his first name and one is the title. For example, Gaius first name, Julius name, Caesar title. So I feel like um Caligula was the emperor, the third emperor, not the third king. Does that make sense? Oh my God. Fine. Okay, moving on. But that doesn't make sense because Caligula is mentioned here. No, because Caligula is mentioned here. Because hold on a second. hold on. Okay, fourth king of Rome. So this fourth king of Rome, and who's the fourth king of fourth emperor? Let's see if there's a difference. Emperor. Fourth emperor of Rome. Okay, I have to work this out, guys, before I get everything mixed up. Okay, because I'm confusing myself. Tiberius, Claudius, Caesar, Augustus, Germanicus was the fourth emperor. Claudius was an accomplished leader who brought forth accomplishments. One second. His name was... So he was Claudius, was the fourth emperor. What about the fourth king? Let's see if it's different. The fourth king and the fourth emperor. Fourth king of Rome. Who's the fourth king? Ancus Marcius. Oh my God. Oh my God. I think I'm mixed up. Oh my god. I have to write this down. Hold on. I feel so bad now because like I mixed everything up. This is not fair to me. What? Because Romulus was the first. He was the founder of Rome. Okay, fine. Let's do this. I have to write it down. I feel so stupid now. Alright, so who is the king? First king of Rome. First king of Rome. Rome. Oh my god, I can't believe I mixed it up. I feel like such a fool. Romulus. Okay, I'm gonna get the list of the names and I'm not gonna get it wrong this time. Okay. No, I don't want this whole thing. I just want the list of names. King of Rome. According to Romulus, his name was Romulus. Romulus. Now we have to go to the second king. List of kings. List. No, not last. List of king of Rome. Bear with me. Lists. Of. Okay. Fine. Okay. Fine. Now I think I'm getting. Okay, so I want to do the kings. Okay, so here I'm starting with the kings. Romulus was first. 1. Numa Pompilius. 2. Numa Pompilius. Tuulius Hostilius was the third. Tuulius Hostilius and Ancus Marcus. Ancus Marcus. So I have to make sure I got it right. I'm pissed, you know? Hiking. I'm trying to get it right because, like, this is just pissing me off. Okay, so I have, it's not Caligula. Caligula is until later. Okay, so we're going to, I got it right so far, you think? Think I got it right? Because now I did Numa, Tuulius Hostilius. Tuulius, let's see if we did him. Tuulius Hostilius. Okay. Let's see if we did that. We did Tuulius Hostilius. Carrying the double number of Roman citizens. Okay, we did that. Now we are by Ancus Marcus. Ancus Marcus. Was he the guy that was? Was he the guy that was disabled? Okay, fine. So Caligula is the emperor. So I got it all wrong. Fine. Fine, I accept that I got it wrong. The Roman king, Ancus Marcius. Marcius? No, I want Marcus. Marcius. Okay, fine. We're up to the fourth king of Rome, not the emperor. Okay? So I got it right until now. Caligula was never in the picture, right? Did I get it right, Carl? Fine. Okay, now I want to get a real story about him. Ancus Marcus. Ruled by the book. He was the fourth of the Roman kings. He had seen how Tullus Hostilius had neglected the duties to the gods, and these were established by Numa Pompilius, who was grandfathered by his mother. Ancus had all the rights of the religion, according to the white tables of the pontifices, and had these tables displayed at a public place. Both the neighboring cities had and his own subjects now had hopes for peace, like in his grandfather's time. But after a while, the Latins thought he would make war and started to invade Roman territory and set the complaining Roman ambassadors empty-handed back. The proper start of a war. Ancus Marcius, who likes to do things Roman had killed till 510 before Christ and after Tarquinius Suburbus, was absolutely horrible. He decided no single man should hold that much power. Right. Both the neighboring cities had his own subjects now, had hoped for peace like in his grandfather's time. His grandfather was Numa, who was a peace guy, right? And after a while, the Latins thought he wouldn't make war and started to invade Roman territory and sent the complaining Roman ambassadors back empty-handed. The proper start of the war. Ancus Marcius, who liked to do things by the book, now designed the proper rites to start a war, a complete procedure. How there had to be asked for restitution, given 33 days to comply, and how the war should be declared by the Vitiales in case of refusal. What about his disability? Was he disabled? Was this the guy I was talking about? The unconspicuous king brought stability to Rome. Ancus Marcius. We were talking about his disability a second ago. So they ended the monarchy, and from then on, the two Roman consuls had to rule together and listen to the Senate. This worked well until Julius Caesar showed up. Julius was a moron. I admired Julius a lot, but he was also a moron. Among the legendary 70 kings of ancient Rome, Ancus Marcus attracts arguably the least attention. He didn't conquer many years. Hard beginnings. Okay, so let me see. Was he actually maimed? Was he actually maimed? Ancus Marcus. Ancus Marcus. Was he disabled? Yeah, it looks like he was. So it was right that he was actually disabled. Wow. Okay, how did... Fine. 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 Okay. Upon the death of the previous king, who was the third, Tuulius Hostilius, the principal feature of Tullius's reign was the defeat of Alba Longa. After Alba Longa was beaten by the victory of 3 Roman champions over 3 Albans, Alba Longa became Rome's vassal state. Hostilius, during his reign, created the College of the Vitiales that concluded all treaties in the name of Rome. What was Ancus Marcius known as? After he held the title of dictator for all his life, his son Augustus declared himself the first emperor. From then on, Rome had a very long line of emperors. These are the guys we talked about. Yeah. Among Ancus Marcius's accomplishments, who was the fourth king of Rome, his excellent statesmanship, the founder of the port of Ostia, constructing the first bridge over the Tiber, which is England, I think, England or Italy, and the settlement of the Aventine Hill. How did Tarquinius Priscus become king? Who is that? I'm not... They're like mixing everything up. I'm pissed. I'm pissed. Officially. That's where Augustus, Tiberius, Caligula, and Caligula the Turret guy belong. So they belong in the emperor's succession. No, because there were certain, like the Tiber and like certain names come from like the British and the Italians. Okay, so let's find his story. Okay, let's hope this is not gonna make me crazy. I don't want legends, I want the truth. Legendary. Okay, let's see. Again, this is not giving me real stories of what happened to this guy. I keep asking about this stuff, but they keep telling me different stories. Early Roman. It looks like I'm having a hard time. So, listen to this. Listen to this. Basically, I'm looking up about this disabled king, Ancus Marcius, but while I'm looking it up, it's showing me like Rome wheelchair accessible tours in Italy. You know? I'm looking for the real story. Okay, maybe this will tell me what's going on. Okay, so Ancus, okay, I think we're gonna get it straight right now. Okay, the fourth king of Rome. Okay, Ancus Marcius was the son of Numa Pompilius. He became the fourth king of Rome after the death of Tuulius Hostilius. So that's not Caligula, that's someone else. Like Numa, he was both peaceful and religious. When attacked by enemies, however, he showed himself to be a capable warrior. He conquered the Latins and moved many of them into the city of Rome, where they formed the original plebeian settlements on Aventine Hill. He built a bridge across the Tiber, built a prison, and founded a port of Austria on the mouth of the Tiber. Okay, so he's known for doing that. All right, fine, I accept that. I accept that, Uh, fine, I accept that. They don't want to tell me more. Fine. Fine, they don't want to tell me more. Like, I feel like there's not a lot of information about this guy. You know what I mean? There's not a lot of information. Apparently this guy was apparently disabled. So fine, they don't want to tell me much information about this guy, Marcius. I don't know why they don't want to say. Like, it looks like Google has like erased it. Ancus said to rule the waging war as Romulus did. Fine. He was a close friend of the Numa. First act as king. Okay, so Marcius had the surname of Ancus from his crooked arm, Ancus signifying bent in Latin. I guess that was his disability, but the other place I read was that his disability was much more severe. According to Livy, Ancus' first act as king was to order the Pontifex Maximus to copy the text concerning the performance of public ceremonies of religion from the commentaries of Numa Pompilius to be displayed to the public on wooden tables so that the rites of religion should no longer be neglected or improperly performed. He reinstated the religious edicts that were created by Numa that had been removed by Tuulius was king. So the third king, it looks like, was killed by a lightning bolt by Jupiter. Okay, I get it, Carl. Fine. Fine. So the third king was killed by a lightning bolt, and the fourth king was he was pretty good. He founded the port of Ostia, and he took over some stuff. Death and successor. Ancus Marcius is reported to have died of natural causes. Okay, fine. In the 24th year of his reign, at the age of 60. Well, that's a long... No, you're not, actually. I'm really happy, Carl, that you're giving your input, because I find this really, really confusing and upsetting at the same time, because, I get pissed, Okay, Ancus Marcus is reported to have died of natural causes at 60. He had two sons, one of them which would take the throne. A member of Ancus's court, Lucius Tarquinius Percus, ensured that Ancus's son would be out of Rome so he could put together an election where he would gain the support of the Roman people. Ancus Marcius was succeeded by his friend Lucius Tarquinius Priscus, who was ultimately assassinated by the son of Ancus Marcius. Later, during the Republic and the Empire, the prominent gens Marcia claimed descent from Ancus Marcius. So it looks like he died from natural causes. Yeah. And his friend took over the throne, and then his friend was later killed by Marcius's sons. So everybody's killing each other. Okay, fine. Okay. Now that we put that to rest, now we're going to move on to the fifth king of Rome. Okay? Let's hope this doesn't make me crazy. Fifth king of Rome after Marcius. Let's just make sure they don't take me for a ride, Okay, because I do not want to be gypped. Okay? All right? It's crazy, man. It's crazy. Okay. Everybody's killing each other. Scribes everyone. I hear ya. Okay, so Tarquin, king of Rome. Was he the fifth king of Rome? Okay, we're gonna move on to the fifth king of Rome, okay? Okay, people? It's like, you know what it's like? The Roman Emperor is like the what's that movie? The TV show called Game of Thrones? I watched like one episode, and two episodes, I just couldn't get through it. It was too much for me. It's like everybody's killing everyone, like really brutally and savagely and very explicitly. Okay. Tarquin, king of Rome. Tarquin, Latin in full, Lucius Tarquinius Priscus, originally named Lucumo, flourished 6th century BC. Traditionally the fifth king of Rome, accepted by some scholars as a historical figure and usually said to have reigned from 516 to 578. His father was a Greek who went to live in Tarquini in Etruria, from which Lucumo moved to Rome on the advice of his wife, the prophet Tanaquil. Changing his name to Lucius Tarquinius, he was appointed guardian to the sons of King Ancus Marcius. So he was the guardian of Marcius, the fourth king's sons. And eventually Ancus' sons had Tarquin murdered. That was the most unappreciated part ever. I'm sorry, Carl. Upon the king's death, Upon Marcius's death, Tarquin assumed the throne. Eventually, Anca's sons had Tarquin murdered. Okay, so Marcius's sons had Tarquin murdered eventually. Tanquil then managed to put her son-in-law Servius Tullius to power. Okay, so this is his wife? This is his wife. So basically, the fourth king, who was Ancus Marcus, he had two sons. And then this guy named Tarquin, he was the guardians of these sons. But then, when Marcius died of natural causes, he decided he's king. But then, later on, Marcius, his son, came back and killed Tarquin. Tarquin then managed to... So then he was killed, and then Tenaquil, who was I think is his wife, managed to put her son-in-law Servius Tullius in power. It's her daughter's son. Her daughter's husband. The legend maintains that Tarquin increased the numbers of persons of senatorial and equestrian rank. He is thought to have instituted the Roman games and have begun the construction of a wall around the city. Tenaquil, legendary Etruscan prophet, the wife of Tarquinius Pricus, traditionally the fifth king of Rome. So, okay, fine, thanks, Carl. Thanks. It's really complicated, to be honest. It's like, I'm trying to figure out, like, the fifth king of Rome, who is Tarquini. He moves to Rome on the advice of his wife, who is Tenaquil. Okay. And he becomes king. What happens when he's king during his reign of kingship? So he did some great things. He created the games, and he created the wall of Rome. He was Tanaquil, legendary Etruscan prophet, the wife of Tranquinius Priscus, traditionally the fifth king of Rome. So he took on the name of his wife, it looks like. According to legend, she married the low-born Lucomo, as Tarquinius was originally called. So she married this guy who was low-born in the Etruscan city of Tarquini. Through her prophetic powers, she saw that their fortunes and social status would improve if they settled in Rome. So she marries this lowlife, like this guy from lower rank, and she's probably, I wouldn't say she's a prophet, but she's probably psychic, what we call today psychics. It's getting way easier once you get to the emperors. Thanks, Carl. So it looks like this lady who's like she's psychic. I don't believe she's really a prophet. I believe she's psychic. Okay. And so she says that she feels they should settle in Rome. So she takes her lousy husband. She settles in Rome with him. At Rome, Lucomo adopted the Latin name Lucius Tarquinius. And Tanaquil reportedly changed hers to Gea Cassilia. So she changes her name too. Tarquinius is said to have ruled Rome from 1616 until he was murdered in 578. So this fifth king was murdered. Tanaquil then won the crown for her son-in-law, Servius Tullius. So this psychic lady, whose name is... Her name is Tarquinius, or Tanaquil, whatever her name is. She changes her name to Cassilia, and her husband gets murdered. He becomes the emperor. He gets murdered by... who was it? By Marcius's sons. And instead of them becoming in power, she appoints her son-in-law into power. So he's going to be the sixth king of Rome. Okay? Tarquinius is said to have ruled Rome from 616 until he was murdered in 578. Tanaquil then won the crown for her son-in-law, Servius Tullius. She earned renown for her skill as spinning and weaving. The Roman writer Pliny reported that there was a statue to her as Gaia Cecilia in the temple of Samo Sancus, where her distaff and spindle were preserved as relics. I can't believe it. Honestly, I can't believe it. You know why? Because apparently in those days, the skill that she had of spinning and weaving was considered like a great thing. But these days, if you're called a spinster, it's like it has like a negative connotation to it. You know what I mean? She became a model of virtue for Roman brides. Scholars have, however, concluded that Tanaquil and Gaia Cecilia were probably distinct characters. So they were different from each other. They weren't the same character. Maybe she had two personalities, like, like people who have like multiple personalities. I don't know. Fine, right? Fine. God, this is crazy. Fine. So it looks like her son-in-law became the king. Now we're gonna move on to the sixth emperor of Rome. Okay. So now we're down. Hi, Elder Souza. Welcome, Elder Souza. Now we're gonna move on to the sixth emperor of Rome because I'm really curious about the sixth emperor of Rome. Fine. Let's check out the sixth emperor of Rome. Okay, where are we? Sixth emperor of Rome. I should probably do all this like research before I get on live, but I don't know. It's just somehow it's like sixth king of Rome. Sixth king of Rome. It's fascinating for me, to be honest. Okay, so it looks like who was the fifth king? Now I'm asking, what was his name? Fifth king. One second. Fifth king. I have to keep a line of it. Fifth king of Rome. After Marcius. His name was... What was his name? After Marcus, his name was... Marcius was the first emperor since Vespasian. No. King. Moron. King. What a moron. I'm asking for the kings, not the emperors. Damn it. Gosh. Sheesh. I want to know about the king. After King of Rome after Marcus. Antonius Pius? Fine, I'll accept that. Antonius Commodus? No, one second. Commodus. First emperor since Vespasian. Okay, we'll do this. Who's after King of Rome? Ancus Marcus. Ancus Marcius. We'll see now, so I don't get mixed up. Death and successor. Succeeded by his friend Lucius. Okay, fine. Thank you. That's all I wanted. Lucius. That's all I wanted. Lucius. Tarquinius. Priscus. Fine. Now we're gonna go to the sixth king of Rome. Whew. Sheesh. Fine. We have that. I have to keep in order because it's very okay. So now we have the sixth king of Rome, Servius Tuulius. Fine. We're getting somewhere. Okay. During the legendary period, when the kings ruled Rome, not the emperors, the kings, because the kings is different than the emperors. The future sixth king was born in Rome. He was Servius Tullius. This was number 5. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Who was number 6 was Servius Tullius. Tuulius, the son of a leading man from the Latin town of Corniculum, or perhaps King Tarquinius Priscus, the first Etruscan king of Rome, or more wishfully than likely, the god Vulcan Hephaestus. Before Servius Tullius was born, so he's the sixth king of Rome, Tarquinius Priscus seized Corniculum. So who is Tarquinius Priscus? So he's the fifth king of Rome, the guy before him. He seized Corniculum, according to Livy, 59 BC AD 17. The Etruscan-born queen of Rome, Tanaquil, who was the wife of the fifth king, Lucius Tarquinius, who was of low birth. She was like psychic, like I would call it of nowadays, but they called her a prophet. So according to her, she took the Etruscan-born queen of Rome, Tanaquil, who was a psychic, took the pregnant captive mother, Orisia, into the Tarquin household, where her son would be raised. So basically, she's taking like a slave. Tanaquil was well versed in Etruscan divination practices, which led her to interpret omens about Servius Tullius, who was the sixth Roman emperor. So she's foreseeing who's going to be the sixth Roman the Roman king after Lucas Tarquinius. So it looks like the later emperors were basically taking on this divination, this way of divining from the kings, which was before them. So they're just mentioning the kings. They're just mentioning the emperor's name, whose name was Emperor Claudius. Makes Servius Tullius an Etruscan. Okay, women taken in ancient battles were generally enslaved. So say the Romans went at war against any country. If they take over a country, they would take the women as their slaves, the women and children. So Servius Tullius, who was the sixth Roman emperor, the sixth Roman king, was taken by some to be the son of an enslaved woman. So he was like a slave. Although Livy is at pains to explain that his mother did not act as a servant, which is also why he stresses that the Latin father of Servius Tullius was the leader of his community. Later, Mithridates was to mock the Romans who had an enslaved man as king. So basically, it looks like Servius Tullius was a slave before he became king, and his mother was a slave, but he always said that his mother was not a slave. She was considered she was never treated as a servant, as a slave, but everyone mocked him later on because of his supposed background of slavery. So he did not assert why he stresses that the Latin father of Servius Tullius was the leader of his community. So he says that he was not a slave, and that's why his Latin father, was a leader of his community. Later, Mithridates was to mock the Romans who had enslaved the man as king. The name Servius may refer to his servile statues. So they were mocking him later on, that he was from a slave. Servius Tullius succeeded Tarquin as a king of Rome. So Lucius Tarquinius died of natural causes, it looks like, I think. And then Servius Tullius took over, and in some unclear illegal manner, as king, he became king. As king, he did many things to improve the city, including enlarging it and building monuments. He also took the first census, so he's counting the people of the country. He's taking account of all the people. Reordering the military, he's making the military powerful and fought against neighboring Italic communities. So he's fighting the Italians. Cornell says he is sometimes called the second founder of Rome. So he was a very powerful leader, it seems, and he created a very strong foundation for the Romans to continue on and become a great nation. He was murdered by Tarquinius Superbus, or his ambitious wife Servius Tullius' daughter. So it looks like he was killed by his wife's daughter. Wow. So let's hear about the 6 kings' reforms that he made for Rome before he was killed. Servius Tullius is credited with making constitutional reforms and performing a census, increasing a number of tribes and adding many people to the category of those eligible to participating in the voting assemblies. The Serbian reform of the citizen body affected the military as well as Servius added a number of new bodies to the count. Servius divided the men into centuries, which were military units. The familiar centurion figure in the Roman legions is associated with these centuries. He divided the centuries into older and younger divisions so that there would be about half the number of men to stay and guard the home front, while the other half went off to fight the almost incessant Roman wars. Fine, so he's busy organizing Rome and their wars. We don't know whether Servius Tullius, the 6th king, created more than the 4 urban tribes with his consensuses by counting all the people. But his realignment of the citizens in a geographic rather than family-based units led to the creation of 35 tribes. The tribes voted in the tribal assembly after the number 35 was set as the final figure. New citizens were added to those groups, and the geographic character of the affiliation was diminished. Some tribes became relatively more crowded, which means that individuals' votes counted for proportionately less since only the vote of the group counted. So it looks like only the group vote counted, which means individually it looks like they couldn't vote, but as a group they can vote. The Servian Wall. Servius Tullius is credited with enlarging the city of Rome and building the Servian Wall, connecting the Palatine, Quirinal, Coelian, and Aventine hills, and the Janiculum. He is credited with building the Temple of Diana on the Diana Aventinensis to serve as a center for the cult of Diana for the Latin League. Sacrifices for the secular games were made to Diana Aventinensis. Archaeologists believe that the walls in the temple were built somewhat later. Servius Tullius also associated with the goddess Fortuna, to whom he built several shrines, including the one on the Forum Boarium. So it looks like he did a lot for the Roman people in the Roman country, right? So now let's look at who is the 7th. Who is the 7th Roman king? 7th Roman king. 7th Roman king after where are we? Servius Tullius. Excuse me. Tullius. Fudge. I should really have done all this research before, but okay. Tarquin Latin and Lucius Tarquinius Superbus flourished 6th century, died the 7th and last king of Rome. So there was only 7 king of Rome. There was only 7th king of Rome. Fine, let's see who was the 7th king of Rome. Let's see if they want to give us some information. 2, 4, 6, 8, 5. I can afford one more cigarette. Numa. Okay, here's the 7th. Lucius Tarquinius. Lucius Tarquinius Superbus. Now I can look it up. Lucius Tarquinius Superbus. Great. Fine. We'll see what it says now about the 7th. Fine. Here we are. One second. Take a little breather. Tarquin. Lucius Tarquinius Superbus. He was the 7th Roman king. Tarquin in Latin, Lucius Tarquinius Superbus, flourished 6th century BC, died 495 BC, near modern Naples, Italy. Traditionally the 7th and last king of Rome, accepted by some scholars as a historical figure. His reign is dated from 534 to 509 BC. So, as it goes, Tarquinius Superbus was in Roman tradition the son, according to Fabius Pictor, or grandson, according to Calpurnius Piscofrugi, of Tarquinius Priscus, and son-in-law of Servius Tuulius, who was his predecessor. Tarquin supposedly murdered Tuulius. Wow. So he killed the former king. And he established an absolute despotism, hence his name Superbus, meaning the proud, in the reign of terror that followed. Many senators were put to death. Eventually, a group of senators led by Lucius Junius Brutus raised a revolt, the immediate cause of which was the rape of a noblewoman, Lucretia, by Tarquin's son Sextus. The Tarquin family was expelled from Rome, and the monarchy of Rome was abolished traditionally 509 BC. Tarquin was said to have provoked a series of attacks on Rome by its neighbors. So he was like, this guy, Lucius Tarquinius, he was like he was a betrayer. He betrayed Rome. Okay, so the Etruscan cities of Cerve and Trequini were defeated by Rome at the Battle of Silva Arcesia. Tarquin's appeal to Lars Parsena of Clusium led to a Roman defeat, but not to Tarquin's restoration. Finally, he roused his son-in-law, Octavius Mamilius, dictator of the Latin League, to fight Rome at Lake Regillus. After the defeat of Latins there, Tarquin fled to the Greek tyrant Aristomenes of Cumae. The text of a treaty between Tarquin, probably Tarquinius Superbus, and the city of Gabii, 12 miles from Rome, did actually exist and was preserved in the temple of Sancus in Rome until the age of Augustus. Okay, so I'm not really quite sure what happened here. What is his deal? 1 second. Life. So after this guy, there was a line of emperors. There wasn't no kings anymore. I don't know what's the difference between kings and emperors. Could someone explain to me? Okay, let's see what world history has to tell us about this guy's life. So, he was considered the proud Lucius Tarquinius Superbus, the proud. He was traditionally the seventh and last king of ancient Rome before it became a republic. He belonged to Etruscan Tarquini clan, reigned from 534 to 510 BCE, and was famous for his tyrannical rule. So he was a tyrant. Although Rome did enlarge its territory in that time following his exile, so he was exiled because his son raped this lady, Lucretia, and his son's name was Sextus, so his son raped this lady. He joined forces with the Etruscan king Lars Porsena, who besieged Rome, c. 508 BCE. Porsena did not restore Tarquinius to the throne, though, and the ex-king fled to Cumae, where he died in 495 BCE. So I'm trying to understand, who did he partner up with in order to fight and stay in power? Okay, he went with the Etruscan king. But the Etruscan king, once they regained power, they did not put him back on the throne. He was exiled and he had to run away. So, as with much of Rome's early history, where legends replaces actual facts, the chronology and events of Lucius Tarquinius' life are often confused and irreconcilable. Some ancient sources have Lucius Tarquinius, the son of Lucius Tarquinius Priscus, the fifth king of Rome, who was eventually from the Etruscan city of Tarquinia. Okay, fine. So, fine. Okay, so this is all kind of like mixed up. There's no real true facts of what happened to this guy. It's known that he died at a certain time, and he was never reinstated to the throne. But here is more stories about him. So Lucius Tarquinius, who's the seventh king, his wife was Tuulia, the younger daughter of Servius Tullius, Rome's sixth king. Together they arranged first to kill Tullia's husband, Romulus Tarquinius, and then murder the king, allowing Lucius Tarquinius to seize the throne. So basically, the sixth king's daughter made an arrangement to kill the king, to kill her husband. She wanted to kill her own husband and murder the king. And then she wanted to kill her own husband and murder the sixth king, who was Servius Tullius. Arruns Tarquinius, and then murder the king, allowing Lucius Tarquinius to seize the throne. So she wanted Lucius to get the throne in that way by killing the sixth king. Shockingly, Tuulia was said to have run over her father's corpse in her chariot, splattering blood all over her clothes. Wow. So this lady, she's conspiring. She's like an evil woman. She's conspiring to kill her husband and her husband's father. And she wants... Was it her husband? No, it was her... Was her husband? No, she's conspiring to get rid of the king, the sixth king, and the... Lucius... Okay, so his wife... Fine. Okay, now it's clear. Lucius was the seventh king, right? But before he was king, Lucius, his wife, was Tuulia, the younger daughter of Servius Tullius, who was the sixth king. Together, Lucius, and this girl, Tuulia, who's married to Lucius, arranged to kill Tullia's husband, Arruns Tarquinius. That was someone else. Okay, so she was married to someone else also. And then murder the king, allowing Lucius Tarquinius to seize the throne. So she wanted basically her husband, Lucius, to take the throne. Whatever, it's not clear to me. Shockingly, Tuulia was said to run over her father's corpse in her chariot, splattering the blood all over her clothes. Even a woman riding a chariot was unthinkable to the Romans. So she was like very advanced for her age, for that age. She was like riding like the horses and then, getting the horse and the buggy, She was riding the horse and getting it going. Never mind the lack of family respect. So she was like looked down upon because she was riding a horse and buggy. Again, according to the Roman historian Livy, the king swiftly removed all dissenting senators and established himself as a dictator of Rome, modeling his reign on the Greek tyrants of that period. Such colorful descriptions by a Roman author writing 5 centuries after the events are likely tinged with a bias eager to display the difference between virtuous republic-loving Romans and dastardly foreign kings from immoral Etruria. So this is funny. Basically, a writer, like one of the historians, they took a biased stance to basically put down the past women who were kings of Rome because they were not born in Rome, I guess. They were like from different countries. So they wanted to make them seem as like low lives and not respectable women, comparing them to the women of that time, of the current timing, that the women of that time were more noble and respectful. According to the Roman historian Livy, the king swiftly removed all dissenting senators and established himself as a dictator. Such colorful descriptions by Roman author writing 5 centuries after events. Okay, fine. Tarquinius's reign. So we're still on the 7th king's reign. Okay. Lucius Tarquinius's early reign saw the king embark on a campaign of ambitious expansion, waging war against the Etruscans, Volci, and Latins. Which is interesting. So this guy, Lucius, who's the 7th king, he's waging war on all these other people who are actually kind of the founders of Rome, because Rome became really what it is because of the Italians and the Latins. He firmly established Rome at the head of the Latin League, now a more military-oriented association, and conquered several Latin towns. Warfare was coupled with diplomacy, and treaties and alliances were made with Latin towns. So he's making peace with the Latin towns. He's making treaties, like making what's another word for treaty? He's making like arrangements, peace arrangements. Notably with Tusculum, whose ruler Octavius Mamilius married Lucius Tarquinius' daughter. So it looks like this other guy from Latin was married. They made a treaty and he married Lucius's daughter, who's the 7th king of Rome. Don't forget, 7th king of Rome is marrying this other king from a different Latin town. In 510 of 509 BCE, Rome's status as an important power was confirmed with the signing of its first treaty with Carthage. Another achievement was to complete construction of the massive temple of Capitoline Jupiter in Rome, a project begun by Tarquinius Priscus. Tarquinius Priscus was the 5th king of Rome, and finished by Etruscan sculptors imported especially for the job. So it looks like they got these people to make these gods in the temple, this god Jupiter for Rome. And it was started by the 5th king, and it was completed with the 7th king. Lucius Tarquinius also added seats to the Circus Maximus, and extended the Cloaca Maxima drainage system. So he did a lot of good things, Lucius Tarquinius. He basically, what did he do? Circus Maximus. What was the Circus Maximus? Let me check. The Circus Maximus. Very important to know this stuff. Circus Maximus. Circus Maximus is an ancient Roman chariot racing stadium. Okay, fine. So it was like the circus, basically. So he's adding seats for who? Who's he adding seats for? So he's adding a lot of seats to the circus of like horse racing and all that stuff. And and he extended the draining system. So he's fixing the drainage system, which, here in Israel, we're having issues with the drainage system. Like, because of the heavy rainfall in Israel, like in East Jerusalem, there's like really bad drainage. So there's like huge flooding everywhere. And in some other places in Israel, like Tel Aviv, where it's also really bad drainage. So if you don't have a good drainage system, what happens? What happens? You get flooded and you could drown, God forbid. Although his use of forced labor from the plebs aroused wide discontent amongst the populace. So he accomplished all these accomplishments with the circus, adding seats to the circus for the horse racing and all that other stuff with the circus and the lions and all that by harsh labor with the slaves and the people. So here we're going to talk about Lucius, the seventh emperor of Rome, the ending of his reign. What happened? So the rape of Lucretia and exile. The end of Lucius Tarquinius' reign. The Tarquinian clan in Rome and the monarchy of early Rome itself all came to an end in the final decade of the 6th century BCE. As with every other part of the king's life, the legend of his downfall has been confused and manipulated over time, and by later Roman writers in order to paint an idealized and symbolic transition from monarchy to republic. So it's basically been manipulated and confused. So we're not really quite sure what the truth is. The spark that set ablaze the ruins of Lucius Tarquinius' reign was the rape of Lucretia. Lucretia was the wife of Lucius Tarquinius Collatinus, great-nephew of Tarquinius Priscus. So it was his great-nephew. Lucius Tarquinius, the seventh king's great-nephew, was a wife. He had a wife, and she was raped by knife point by Sextus, who was Lucius Tarquinius' son. Following her perceived dishonor of this attack, she committed suicide and thus became forever after a symbol of Roman matronly chastity. So because she was raped, she killed herself, and then she became a symbol of somebody who never doesn't want sex or doesn't like sex or never had sex. But how did that even make sense? Or someone is of purity because of that. So she became a great symbol, but she killed herself only because she couldn't handle the humiliation of what happened to her. You know what I mean? It's not because of her chastity. What does chastity even mean? Chastity? Let's see, what does chastity mean? Chastity. The state of practice. Okay, so fine. I accept that. So it's someone who refrains from committing adultery. Fine. So chastity is basically not having sex out of marriage. Lucius Ioanus Brutus, who on the spot swore an oath of revenge for Lucretia, and Lucius Tarquinius Collatinus used the tragedy as a catalyst for ridding Rome of their tyrannical king, Lucius Tarquinius, who was the seventh king, tyrant. At that time, laying siege of Ardea, and thus set themselves up as Rome's first consuls in 509 BCE. Once again, the legend conveniently portrays the Etruscans as lacking any class, and the Romans as saviors of virtue. But in all probability, the whole story covers a more mundane dynastic struggle for power between the royal household and the upper aristocracy, which were born, perhaps uncomfortably so for later Roman writers, largely of Etruscan origin. So what happens here is that it looks like everything's being manipulated because the first 7 kings were not born Roman born. They were more like from Latin and Greece and British. No, Italy. So they're considered lowborn, and so because of the story of the rape, they considered it like a lowborn thing to do, and that's why they did it, because they were from that. They weren't from like noble heritage, like from pure Roman lineage or something like that. Brutus soon went one step further and seized the opportunity to do away with the whole Tarquinian clan. So they wanted to get rid of the seventh king's the whole seventh king dynasty. They wanted to get rid of him and all his people, including Collatinus. This version rather glosses over the fact that Brutus was himself the nephew of Tarquinius. So Brutus, who is part of the clan of the seventh king, he wants to get rid of the seventh king and all his clan, even though he was part of it. This he achieved with the backing of the Roman people. So the Roman people supported this guy, Brutus. These legendary events were further embellished with Brutus killing two of Collatinus' sons when they tried to restore their father. Additions made for political expediency following the assassination of Julius Caesar by the descendant of Brutus, Marcus Ionius Brutus, in the 1st century BCE, and made to show that Brutus and the Ioni Brudi were not blameless defenders of republican ideals. Returning to our story, Rome was now indeed a republic, but Lucius Tarquinius Superbus would not give up his throne so easily. So this guy, Superbus, no, what was the name? This guy, what's his name? Brutus. He's basically part of the clan of Lucius Tarquinius, and he's trying to get rid of all of them, but it looks like this seventh king will not give up so easily. Anyway, we're going to see what happens to him now. Lars Porsena and death. Following his exile from Rome, Lucius Tarquinius joins forces with the Etruscan cities of Cerventari. Tarquinia and Veii, a force attacked Rome but was defeated at the Battle of Silva Arcia. Undeterred, Lucius Tarquinius then convinced the king of Chiusi, Lars Porsena, to lay siege to Rome, 508 BCE. Traditionally, this second attack was seen as an attempt to restore Rome's monarchy and Lucius Tarquinius to the throne. But following Porsena's siege of the city, he instead did one of two things. Version 1 was have Porsena finally withdrawing after being impressed with the city's fortitude and moving off to attack Latin town of Aricia instead, albeit without success. So basically, Lucius, he's sent into exile, and he's trying to convince all these other people, all these other countries, to take over Rome and restore him to the throne, but they back down. So, has Porsena victorious? So, version 2 of the story, the more credible one, has Porsena victorious and Rome surrendering to the Etruscan king, who then, far from reinstalling Superbus, acted to abolish the monarchy of Rome and then used the city as a base attack to the Latin cities, starting with Arcia in 504 BCE. So basically, Lucius Tarquinius goes to the other countries and tries to get them to fight against Rome and reinstall him into the monarchy and keep him as king. But they instead, what do? They fight, and they don't restore this seventh king back, but they make it into a republic. My question is, so it's become a republic, but my question is, if it became a republic, why would these other countries want to, back Rome up and create something different without completely taking it over for themselves? That's my question. I don't quite understand what went on here. If one of you can explain it, that'd be nice, Okay, I get it. So Basically, these other countries, basically, they fought with the seventh king. And once they gained power over Rome, instead of installing the seventh king back into the as king, they turned on him and instead they made Rome into a republic because the Roman people wanted that. That makes more sense. Superbus, who was the part of the Lucius Tarquinius Superbus clan, would indeed turn out to be Rome's last king. Oh, no, Superbus was actually this seventh last king, but he had relatives who were using that name who wanted to get rid of him. Whatever. And the Republic set off on its road to greatness. Meanwhile, the ex-king was forced to seek refuge with his son-in-law, Octavius Mamilius, the dictator of the Latins. According to one version of the legend, who sought, rather improbably, given the long-time rivalry between Rome and the Latin cities, to restore Lucius Tarquinius to the throne. Following Mamilius' defeat at the Battle of the Lake Regillus 499 or 496 BCE, to the Romans, aided by, oh gosh, seriously? Where am I? Gosh. Now I have to find it again. Oh, okay. Between Rome and the Latin cities to restore Lucius Tarquinius to the throne following Mamilius' defeat at the Battle of the Lake of Regillus, 499 or 496 BCE, to the Romans aided by Castor and Pollux. Lucius Tarquinius moved on to Cumae in Campania, where he was hosted by the tyrant Aristodemus until his death in 495 BCE. So it looks like other people liked him and they let him stay by them in exile, basically. And that's the end of the Seven Kings. That's the end of the story of the Seven Kings. And then after the Seven Kings, there was a republic, which was like kind of like, in my understanding, it's kind of like a democracy. That makes sense to you? Does that make sense? Yeah? Anyway, so I think that's all I'm going to do today, the Seven Kings, because that was kind of like really intense. You know what I mean? And it was fun. It was informative for me because I like to learn with other people because without it, it's kind of like without you guys, it's kind of like boring because like I feel like while I talk, I learn. So thanks for being with me. I hope to see you next time. Should I eat an onion? Should I eat a raw onion for you guys? The cats come alive as soon as they see me go to the kitchen. They think I'm like giving them food. I'm having onions, babies. Can you calm down? Gosh. Jeez. I'm gonna eat raw onions now because it's really tasty with Himalayan salt. Watch how I eat my onions. Himalayan salts. Delicious. Romulus, Augustus, Octavian, Commostus. I love I love the Roman names. They're so funny. Servius, Tullius, Tarquinius, Lucius, Purbus, Superbus, you know? Onions. My cats don't like onions. As soon as they saw I was cutting onions, they ran away. Mm. Mm. Fudge. Mm. Mm. Fine, guys. Thank you all for being with me. It was lovely. Until next time. Oh, it's sharp, this onions. Mm. Bye, guys.